Indeed. Thank you, Ibrahim Bello Gunda, for the background report. Again, we're looking at cost of house rent or rising cost of house rent in Nigeria. I'm sure this is a topic that is relatable everywhere. So let me start quickly to introduce the guest. We have Otaru Joseph, or Joseph Otaru. He's the Vice President, Nigeria Institute of Quantity Surveyors, and he's right here with us. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. We're glad to have you. We also have Lilian Ngozi Ohiato, who's the Secretary of the Nigerian Institute of Estate Surveyors and Valuers, Abuja branch, and she's also a fellow of the Nigerian Institute, a fellow rather, I should say. Yeah, a fellow. All right, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. We have also been joined here in the studio by Abubakar Ahmed Tanimu, who is a former banker and legal practitioner. Always a pleasure to welcome you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me. It's a delight being here.
And let me also introduce Barrister Festus Adebayo, who is the founder, Housing Development Advocacy Network, and founder, Africa International Housing Show. We thank you for coming on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen and lady, thank you. I'd like to start with Abubakar Tanimu, because I just, from the grapevine, the Eneke debate just whispered something to my hearing. And I'd like, for you to start off this conversation on a very practical note. You live in Abuja.
Absolutely.
Do you have a house of your own?
For now, I do, but it's on loan.
So where do you live?
I stay in Saada Court. That's across
somewhere now.
Somewhere far from the town. I used to be in Area 11, close to your station here. But what
Why
chased me out is the rent. We have astronomical increase. If you are paying 3 million, the next year your landlord will just write you a letter some months to the timing and tell you that your new rent is 6 million. And you look at it, you want to ask yourself, has anything significantly happened in terms of the source of the income that you make? Has there been any renovation in the house? What has necessitated that sudden increment? It obtains in everywhere.
How long ago was this?
I've been in the house since 2021.
Yes.
Yes.
And how long did you live there?
2021.
Were you a new tenant or a yearly tenant?
You see, for now, the way Abuja is going, even though I'm a lawyer, I'm the one actually managing the property. I thought I would have been protected enough. But even the manager of the, yes, I was not so, because he felt at the point, maybe I'm trying to protect the tenant. But you see, as a lawyer, I try to educate him that doesn't make sense for you to be increasing your rent on a yearly basis, because it appears to be on a yearly basis. On every year he comes in and he said, okay, you are paying 1.5, okay, the next year is 2 million, the next year is 2.5. So I'm asking, why can't you delay some timing and allow things to really, because people that are working, for example, I say I'm a lawyer, my earning depends on the case and everything that I do. It's not that you have seen that significantly they've increased the income for lawyers and you want me to, or there's maybe election petition going on, something of that. So it applies all over. So I will now be the one interceding between the tenants, myself, and the landlord. And
So you had to move?
I have to move.
Where did you move to?
I moved to Saada Court, outskirts. So coming to town this time around, unlike before where I can just walk down to my office any moment, at any time I'm invited, or anywhere in the town, I can always find it easy. It's not easy anymore. Now I have to plan.
So it comes with a cost?
It comes with a lot of cost, a lot of cost. So a lot of changes will actually follow suit.
Thank you.
How you go about your life.
Thank you for laying a further background to it. But let me get Lillian into this conversation. When estate surveyor, valuer, what is the real cost of building a property? Of course, different properties with their different values, but perhaps you could give us an idea of what it is to own a property. Why am I asking this? Most landlords, when they want to increase, they say cost of this and cost of that. Some of these houses were built 20 years ago. So that cost does not quite apply. Maybe it will apply in terms of maintenance, but I've also had a landlord, I once had a landlord who would say, oh, I increased because of cost of maintenance, but when something goes bad, he says, well, you are the one living there.
Well, it depends. When you talk about cost of construction right now, we are all in the country and we're all facing the economic challenges. We saw how the inflation, affected cost of building materials and all of that. But for existing properties, it's still an investment for the landlord. So cost of repairs is also facing other challenges. Those will be the foundation of increment in house rent. Because it's an investment, it's supposed to yield the required returns. For example, with the floating of the dollar, rents that were like the value of 1.5 million is somehow not the same with even when you're receiving 3 million or 3.5. So that is it, because the landlord also goes to the same market like you. So if the returns are not, it's not coming in as it should, it calls for increase. So there are different.
I'm sure you heard Barrister Tanimu say this is a year-on-year thing.
That is wrong.
Yes,
that is wrong, because of course it's expected that you increase rent between 2 and 4 years.
Okay. Not 5?
No, 5.
Because I think I've read somewhere.
Not 5.
That increment you are saying, even the 2 years, they will factor in the rents they've not increased. So you now see your rent going astronomical. Maybe if you are paying 1.5, suddenly they will ask you to pay 5 million. Those years they did not increase it, they will still factor in it.
And it's also a factor of demand and supply.
Okay, we will look at that, because there are other developed worlds where it's not strictly a market force thing.
Market housing should
never
be.
Then government has to come in.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So, but we have Ayodele Olusonya, a developer, joining us from Lagos via Zoom, and we're very glad that Mr. Olusonya, we are very, very glad that you were able to join this conversation. But please just simmer down. We'll get back to you, because so many questions will be needing your response. Let me come back here and get do a little backgrounding, and I'd like to bring in Barrister Festus Adebayo, founder, Housing Development Advocacy Network. Let's say, we've been hearing the deficit. Nigeria has a deficit of between 17 to 20 million. I can't remember how many years I've heard this. Now, if you juxtapose that against our population, let's say 200 million, just to be on the average. Now, what that amounts to is, when you divide that by the number of households, because housing is all about households, not individuals. So if you divide that by the number of households, let's say, okay, maybe the law permitted 4, I don't know but let's say 5. Let me use my household as an example, 5. Which means 5 divided by 200 million, you'll be having 40 million households. 17 to 20 million deficit will mean how many percentage? I'm not a good mathematician. I had an F9. I had an F9, but that's at least it's almost 50.
Yes,
almost 50%. 50% of that are without
housing,
shelter.
Sure.
Please, what does that mean for the average Nigerian?
Thank you so much. To start with, I will continue from where ESV Lillian stopped. Housing is not fully a market product.
No, please tell us what. No, please, before you go to the, because we know what does it mean? Let us understand what it means that 40 to 50% of Nigerian population don't have good house.
Yes.
Yes. What does it mean?
And what it means is that the government's responsibility, the responsibility of somebody is not being fully performed. From our report as of 2025, the whole Nigeria real estate developers and the state government did not produce 50,000 houses for the whole of 2025. Then you can imagine about children that were born in 2025. You can imagine about migration that took place in 2025. Number of graduates that needed the new housing. Population versus housing supply. That is why you are seeing the problem. We are not producing. We are not producing. In Abuja alone, 450 to 550 people enter into the city every day. In a month, 15,000. In a year, over 180,000 for our research. The housing production in Abuja alone for the whole of a year is not up to 12,000. So what's wrong?
It's up to how many?
It's not up to 12,000.
12,000.
12,000. So if we are not producing up to 12,000, and we keep talking that there's housing deficit, the housing deficit will continue. And let me also make this point known to you. Last week, at the Council of Land and Housing in Kaduna, in Ilorin, I'm a member of the data committee, and in that committee announced with the support of Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, Nigeria Population Commission, that as of today, the population deficit, the housing deficit in Nigeria is 14.5. Let me remind you that the Honorable Minister for Housing has been in this your studio, Fashola, at various times, saying he did not know where they get the 18 million, the 20 million. But today, we have one figure coming from the Federal Ministry of Housing that it is 14.5 million.
14.5.
5 million. And that we should now be trading. We should be doing business with that. But I must tell you, I'm in an NTA station, but I wouldn't mind to see that government of today should do more in the area of housing. Even the one that they are doing under Renew Hope, it's not affordable for the people that really need to get the houses. The people that really need to buy houses, who cannot afford, are the one renting houses in the city now. The people that cannot afford, who need affordable housing, are the one going to Babalada. They are the one going to Sulija to leave the houses. I've given you the figure.
Mararaba, Karu.
And this problem is rooted in, one, people are coming from rural to the city. Professionals are coming here to do one business or the other. And beyond that, the contractors are everywhere. What of your brother, the politicians? Some of them have 15 heads. They're all paying for the rent. They are the one competing with the lawyer. And when the lawyer's income is not like their own, the best option for the lawyer is to move to the city, is to move to the satellite. So with not addressing the problem of housing, we're going to have increase in our informal settlement. There's going to be more problem in the security. In fact, those people living in that satellite time are battling with the problem of water. They're battling with the problem of electricity because there's so much pressure on all those things. So housing is a social responsibility. How the government? Don't let me go. What are the civil servants who increased their salary in the last 2 years? Most of the civil servants are spending 50% of their income, above 50% of their income on house rent. So what happened to education? What happened? Because there's no free education. So what happened to it? The government must rise up. Let me end up here.
That's a structural crisis.
Let's get...
It's a structural issue.
Of course.
Let's get to Otaru Joseph Omokago. I see you nodding, almost throughout. You seem to agree with everybody that has spoken. But if you agree with him, and you agree with him too, then you will have to tell us where you stand in all of this. Why does it seem difficult for more people? Because if less people pay rent, for instance, it makes it less lucrative for the landlord who wants to keep increasing. Because when you say, economic reasons are the cause, you forget also that the worker, for instance, who is going to pay the rent, is also facing the same economic realities, and everything is tugging at the same worker who hasn't got an increase maybe for years. He's the one who is going to pay school fees. He'll still pay it regardless of the economic situation. He will pay the rent regardless. So when you increase the rent because you feel that, it's economic reality, you don't consider that it becomes, sometimes a worker could just put down his salary and it honestly cannot pay the bills, basic bills. He can pay it, so what do they do?
Thank you very much. I'm happy all of us have spoken, and we're all professionals in our various fields, particularly the lawyer and Mr. Adebayo. Now, housing is a very big challenge, and it's one of the social infrastructure that the government should provide for its citizens. Now, not only in Abuja, you will find out that the cost of housing is on the increase. I'm happy with the information that he has all brought from the National Housing
Council on Housing.
Council on Housing from Ilorin.
Mr. Taru, I'm sorry I will have to interrupt you. I'm told that your mic is having a little challenge and we may need to address that. Okay. So, no, just hold on. It will be addressed, so we'll just go off you to give that space for it to be fixed while we get to our guest who's joined us via Zoom, and that's Ayodele Olusoya. Thank you for joining us again.
Ayodele Olusoya.
All right, thank you. Now, Claire had given you a hint earlier that you will have a lot to do because you are a property developer. And I was just asking Mr. Taru earlier on why it seems like the average Nigerian cannot own a house and free him or herself from the clutches of landlords.
Okay, so this topic, to be honest with you, is not something that we can entirely, cut down to the very basics in this session. I promise you. And, so there are several angles you look at. So when you're talking of a landlord and you're talking of a tenant, so first things first, right? I will first speak from a developer point of view, which I'll translate to that of a landlord, right? When you are building or you are starting a project, in this part of the world, in Nigeria to be specific, the cost at which you start the project is not the cost at which you're going to complete the project. You can be rest assured. Now, so one of the things we did as a development company is that we stopped doing off-plan, and that I tell you the reason why. You can't plan with off-plan money, because I'll give you an example. You start a project at the beginning of this year, and your projected cost for a project is, say, 100 naira. I guarantee you that before mid-year, the price of cement, the price of iron rods, the price of everything is likely to have changed, right? So what does that suggest? You have inflation, there are times we say naira devaluation, price of materials has gone up, price of everything you need to put everything together has gone up. Now, I will equate that to what a landlord does, right? So the price of every commodity, it needs to maintain the house, put the house in order, and get things done. Plumbing materials, fuel, security, everything goes up, right? Now, the landlords would certainly try to pass on this cost to the tenants. That's first things first. So even if nothing changes, and I'll give you an example. As a developer, if I'm building, if the price of the inputs, the land I'm building up changes, what happens is that because of the replacement costs of the real estate I'm developing, right, I will adjust my prices to reflect the current market forces. Because if I'm going to replace that project, it means I should be able to afford the current market prices that I will use to replace what I'm trying to sell. So that's the first things first we need to take note. So there are times you look at some of these things that are landlords being unreasonable. In some cases, I probably can tell you that some landlords will probably just wake up and like, okay, you know what? And okay, somebody mentioned the role of agents, right? Agents can probably just wake up and say, Oga, houses in that area, they are going for 20,000. I think if you do 50,000, it will go up. And of course, the guy looks at it that, okay, if that's what my neighbors are doing, I can make more. Why not? So it jacks up the prices. So there are various angles to this conversation. You have high demand. Everybody's looking for your house. And you look at it that 10 people have come to ask me that do I have a vacancy? So that means I can increase the price. So that talks about greed in some areas. Then, of course, you have some landlords. So because of the areas where we develop, right, you see some landlords pegging their rent to dollar value. That, okay, I bought this land at $200,000 in 2015. Dollar is this now. So I should be getting so rentals at this time, right? So there are various angles or different faces to this. I've talked about agent influence. Then, okay, we'll come back to, mitigation subsequently, but this and several more are some of the reasons why you have the fact that rent prices will keep skyrocketing, right? Because like the other, the person from the National Housing Agency or something said, in a case where you have a housing gap of 14.9 million, right, in Nigeria, and the plan of the Federal Ministry of Housing for last year, under the renewed hope, is to do 20,000, which the budget provided for. The gap would always exist. I'm not sure how the gap. Sorry?
Kayode, thank you. I don't know why I have this feeling that you are a dollar, denominated developer. The way you're talking and everything. But let me. Mr. Adebayo here had corrected us that the current, updated figure is 14. Am I right? Yes, 14 million.
14.9 million.
Sorry?
14.9 million.
14.9, approximately 15 million housing deficit, not the usual 17, 20 billion that we've been parading. But let me ask you, as a developer, what would be, for you, the implication of this deficit? Would you see it as an opportunity or a risk?
Okay, so an immediate answer to that question is it's a huge opportunity, and I would say it from the way I see it, right? I don't believe in the term affordable housing. There's nothing called affordable housing, right? Unless the government directly steps in to say we are subsidizing housing, any developer, commercial developer that tries to do that will get flogged, because there has to be a subsidy somewhere. And that's because all the inputs or factors of production are not cheap, right? So unless the government steps in, and one beautiful thing the government has done through this REEF program, real estate investment, through the Ministry of Finance and partnership with this other agency, what do they call it again? MORI for something. I can't remember what they are called again. So what they have done, Ministry of Finance Incorporated Real Estate Fund. They have put together about a trillion or something that they want to use to provide mortgages, right? Now, mortgages will be provided upon completion of the houses at the point of purchases. But my own suggestion, right, is a very good move. But unless the houses are completed, you can't get a mortgage. So I would rather, if they can provide developer-backed, of course, if there are some selections that they do, and I'm sure it's probably even out there, if they can find some credible developers that can build more, they are driven, and there are quite a number of them I see around in Abuja. We have quite a number of things in Abuja, but like I said, we don't play in the affordable segment. If they can provide some developer-backed funding for these guys, then I can tell you that that gap can be reduced. But it is a huge gap if we don't all put all hands on deck for us to be able to reduce that deficit, because 14.9 million is a lot. So definitely government needs to step in, and not just with 20,000 and all that. All hands has to be on deck for them to be able to drive more, for them to be able to get this done. Otherwise, it will always just be another item on budget, on paper, that will never be met. And that deficit keeps growing, right? So it's something that has to be stemmed in, and a real action plan has to be put in place.
Maybe other guests, Tanimu, do you agree with him? He doesn't believe in affordable housing. And I'm wondering how people, for instance, who live in maybe Rumokuta, in River State, or someone who lives in Karu, far off Karo, Nyanya, Lugbe, or the other person who lives in Okakbomu, Kwara State, where I come from, can they all be able to afford, the kind of housing that he's talking about?
Okay, as he mentioned, he's talking from his own point of view. In Abuja, you have all the big players. I don't know if you have visited Guzapi. You will see a property that was 25 billion naira. And people are living in it, people are buying it. They don't care for the masses. They will not want to waste their resources to build houses that cannot be purchased on time. So all those ones that you are mentioning are for the low income earner. And it's not, they are businessmen, they are investing to make returns. They are not charitable. Like I said, government need to come in. Properties should not be a commodity for commercial
but almost
investment.
every space now is being taken up by developers.
There are all kinds of developers at his own level. When you're talking of the brains and hammers, you order the big players. They don't have time for low-income earners. You cannot even, they don't even, they are not even in their plan. Then for the low-income earners, they are not organized enough that you go to Lugbe, you go to all those areas that you mentioned. What you normally see is that maybe a politician, a road transport worker, somebody has just made a quick money, he's just trying to, so he doesn't have the professionalism, he doesn't rely on professionals, he just built all sorts of structures. Some of them are not habitable in those areas, and he's now, because he troops into town and goes back, he's trying to bring what is obtainable in the town down there that is not commensurate to what has been constructed. So you continue to have that problem. They are catching up in terms of the costing. So it's no longer the same where you say you are going far end of Lugbe, you are going to Suleja. Even in those areas, to those same properties, the cost of rent is getting higher.
All right, let me get back to Mr. Taru. I'm sure that we can hear you more clearly now. You were trying to round off your thoughts, but I want to add this to it. We talk about the gap in housing. But in a place like Abuja, you have a lot of houses completed and unoccupied. I know someone who had told me, say, look, I have a house that is free. It's a small house, but I don't want to get into the trouble of tenants, that the tenant can pay for 1 year, and that after 1 year, he no longer can afford the rent. And then, while, even if you want to go to court to get him out, you want to do it responsibly, he remains in the house while you are doing all of those. And then, if it's not a decent tenant, he messes up the apartment. And so you see yourself, you are not making any profit, you are not making any gains. Is this why it also seems like we have a lot of houses unoccupied and there is housing gap?
Thank you very much for that question. Number one, in agreeing with Mr. Adebayo, I mentioned that we are happy now that the housing deficit has dropped from 17, which we used to know, to 14.9. You also see that in, for instance, Abuja, you have housing deficit. You have people living around Suleja axis up to Kaduna Road and the rest. This is as a result of the high cost of living. You also see that these are low-class people, and there is, like the developer said, if you look at Abuja very carefully, the houses that are actually not occupied, they are not meant for the low-income earners. For instance, if you drive along Kubwa Zuba Road, you will see some houses being developed. They are almost at point of completion, but not occupied for close to 8 years or more now. And then you see ASO Saving that was also involved in developing some properties along that axis, and it's been stalled. So you will see that many houses have been built, but the real truth is that they are not built, they are not meant for the low-income earners. They cannot afford it. Just like the developer has said, the cost of construction is high. You will also notice that when you have a piece of land in Abuja, they will attach a cost of construction to the letter of allocation. For instance,
cost of construction.
Yes, cost of construction. You are expected to build a house worth 25 million on the property from FCDA. Now, the question is, who determines that cost? who determine the cost for which they are inserting in the letter of allocation. It is the responsibility of the quantity surveyor to determine the cost of infrastructure, both housing, engineering, road, bridges, airport, and all of it. Once it is infrastructure, it is the responsibility of, within the purview of the quantity surveyor, to determine it. Now, somebody, and I believe that the government can do a little more, because like in Lagos State now, you have rent regulation. But I don't think it's obtainable in Abuja.
It's not.
The estate surveyors need to do a little more so that within Metama region, let us have and know that any house within that area should not be more than 10 million in rental value. So when you now translate that to places like Buhari, Nyanya, and other places, of course it will come down. So you also continue to see that houses are being built, they are not occupied, because the rental value, the average person in the FCT, the civil servant, they cannot afford it.
So what's the point of building houses that adds nothing to you? You don't collect rent, you don't live in there, it's just vacant. What value?
Money laundry.
He has said it, that it's an investment. And now for everybody who is in business, who is investing in money, will also make profit out of it.
Yes.
Now, what you see in Abuja is that you have quite a number of houses unoccupied. He has said it, but I don't think we will rely on that.
A lot of those houses are
a lot of those houses were...
Drive along airport road, for instance,
they
left and right.
Used
You
for
find them,
money laundering. You layer funds there.
We are actually talking
We know.
about landlords who arbitrarily, frequently increase their house rent, not just by a single-digit percentage.
And they demand for 2 years. Now it's not the new trend.
So we're looking
they
at
want 2
what
years
could
rent,
be
yes,
the push.
upfront.
What could be the push for this, behavior? Like you said, Lagos State is taking action.
Yes. Abuja is
Lagos
not.
State is taking action. You can build your house. You can build your house to, whatever standard, whatever. Once you have a tenant, there should be a standard rule,
Absolutely.
an obligation between
Absolutely.
landlord and tenant, such that
To
you
regulate
don't-
the
to
tenancy.
regulate
What we have at the
yes.
moment is about recovery of the premises.
investment.
That's the only the protection that a tenant will get, that your landlord will not just wake up and use self-help to get you out of his house. So a lot of tenants too have abused that privilege that the courts have given them, so that they will have a kind of easy way, that they will not say and just hand. But the real
But they still
protection,
pay for it.
yes, they still pay for it, but the real protection is not there. The real protection a lot of Nigerians are yearning for is for regulation of the tenants, the amount payable and the mood. In other climb, if you can pay maybe monthly, it will reduce the burden on you. If you have a fixed amount and you know that within this year or in 2 years' time, your rent will not be increased in a given proportion, then it will come handy.
Lagos State has that. In fact, there is a draft bill
Sure.
which has not, been attended to. But the 2011 law
Sure.
is
It regulated a lot of things. So we are calling for
yes.
Abuja to have a replica.
Yes, we will look at the effectiveness of that. How Lagos is able to manage that. But he said something. Mr. Taru mentioned something about valuation.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to bring you in now. I mean, for 14, whether it's 14.9 or 15 or 17, it's still a massive housing shortage. And I'm wondering, in carrying out your professional valuation, do you consider this massive housing deficit and the scarcity thereof?
Yeah, valuation is for different purposes, for real. So it depends on what we're valuing for. For example,
Value for residential purposes, and that's what we're talking about.
Okay. In terms of regulate, the rent issue needs to be regulated by government. But it's not something that you just fix. You have to also look from the foundation. How you're able to get the land, how we Is the land available? Is it cheap? Because for government to talk about affordability, you have to make other factors work. How we're able to get the land, cost of constructing the land, and returns on investment. All of those things, you have to put it into consideration, because as an investor and you're putting in your money, you should be able to also get something back. So government cannot just come after you have spent 200, 250, 500 million to build a house, and they'll come and say, oh, no, you can't take more than this. No, you will also be shortchanging the investor. So you have to start from somewhere. So when we are valuing and we are thinking of how our valuation can help reduce the cost of rent in a property, we will tell the government to also look at tax, using the tax. For example, if we value properties around Maitama, and we tell government, properties around here should not be more than this. All right, government can talk to the investor like, okay, if you're going to take this amount of rent, then you pay little or nothing on tax. Then, but if you're going to take more than that...
Does the current tax reform law now, does it have any impact? Because
no, it's free on rent, actually. But for the investor, I think you have to pay withholding tax or something.
Capital income
yes.
gain tax.
Yes,
but it still reduces...
They will factor it back to
so they factor it back to the consumer.
Anyway,
so government needs to... There's a lot, because it's not a straightforward thing. There's a lot that needs to be done by government for them to be able to regulate the rent. Because talking about affordability in the local areas, even in those places, they can't be able to afford it.
Let me just put you on hold. Please send in your messages, send in your comments. If you have a very relatable experience with your landlord, you can also send in. We will take your comment.
But make it short.
Make it short, exactly.
There was a question you asked him in terms of evicting a tenant. This is why even part of what is causing the shortage is that people are withdrawing their apartments, multiple tenanted houses, and turning it into hotels. Because tenants are not able to pay. After they pay the first year, it becomes a challenge for them to pay. And for investors, like, I can't deal with this. Or some of them put it back in the market to sell it off and get back their money. So there's a lot that needs to be done.
Maybe look at it in terms of profitability.
Because it's further reducing the number of available
Yes, most of the houses here
now.
So
they need to also look at the law of the removing a tenant from the property and for the investor. They need to look into it. It has to be interesting for people to invest in those areas.
All right, Mr. Adebayo, I see you are eager to also, lend your voice to this. Yeah. But one more thing that increases cost to the tenant is the activities of agents. Of course, the agent understands that the more they rent, the more he gets.
The percentage.
They are responsible for convincing most landlords to increase for their own selfish ends. Of course, the landlord bears no cost. In fact, he has nothing to lose. Why are the activities of agents also unregulated?
Thank you so much. I will start to respond to that question before I go to other issues. I can inform you here that in Lagos State, we're in court with at least 10 agents who collected money for the houses that did not exist. So we have cases. And above all these things that we are talking about, it's all about government involvement. I am not with the idea of rent control because I'm still looking for somebody who can tell me where the rent control has been successfully implemented 100%. You don't control what belongs to me. I'm the owner of my house. I can decide to leave it. I can go to my village and put calabash and juju inside and say nobody should enter. So the solution lies in the government. The developer has spoken. I love his style. He said, easy to business, is to make money. That is it. But the government cannot fold his arms and allow that to be the order of the day. And then you come and tell me, the civil servant stole 10 billion. He has to steal. He has 1 year to go. Where do you want him to go? Provide housing for them. Corruption will reduce. Provide housing for them. The security problem will be arrested. Provide housing for them. Manpower productivity will also be. When a man has a house, he has dignity. You're not a man, according to Mandela, when you don't have a roof. on your head.
Mr. Adebayo,
So these are the issues.
Sorry, hold on. I think we need to correct the statement. No civil servant should steal no matter what. I mean, this is a national.
I think
TV.
he's saying this is why.
No, because the way you say it.
Let me say it. Let me repeat it the way I
Yes,
say
please.
it.
Please.
I have said this severally. One of the best ways to arrest corruption is to provide home ownership for these people.
It's better.
And I'm therefore telling you, using the lawyer language, majority of these civil servants who has 1 year to live will resort in self-help when they see opportunity. So therefore, we must not say because the television, government-owned television. I know many NTA people who have retired, who still come to my office seeking help on how they can get a house.
No, they can seek help.
You get what I'm saying? After 35 years. So in essence, let us leave that.
Hold on, please.
Let me.
Just hold on. Just hold on.
You are doing your job. Let me go to the other issue. The issue at stake have to do. This is what I've been doing for the past 25 years. This is what I've been doing for the past 25 years. So, the issue at stake is affordable housing. The man, my brother started there, and my guy on the television said he does not understand affordable housing, and he does not know how it can be provided. That is the problem that I've gone to the rent. The man who could not get affordable housing, you are pushing him to the level of which he cannot even pay for the rent. Absolutely. So who now need to come up to assist? That is the government. Come, there's no way a developer, I'm saying it here, some of them may be watching me. It is difficult for them to pay for land, to pay for compensation, to pay for building approval, to pay for everything, to buy cement in December for 9,500, and then they buy cement in January for 10,500, and then you tell them to come and divide to provide affordable housing. The one bedroom in the New Hope is going for how much? 35 million or 30 million. So what are we talking about? So if you are doing your home one bedroom as a government for 35 million, they mean that it's not a government. How much do you want me to do this? This is the issue. So the solution is this. Now what are we looking for? We need more rent than rental housing. We need more rental housing. Let's come to the head of these people. 20 years, 30 years. After they be deducting it from them, let them become the owner of the houses. That's a succor. We need succor. We need succor.
Okay,
government can give free land. Access to land.
Okay, quickly before we take the message.
Access to land is a difficult thing. Give a cameraman a land with a good location, layout, building approval has been done. Tell it to go and build it. It will find a way to be going there every weekend when it's not in the studio. Come, this is the way we are talking. Access to land is set. The payment on the land. See what they are paying in FCT for land rent, land grant. So let us help the poor man on the street. They cannot afford the houses. The hostel still cannot afford the rent. Where do we want them to go? To avoid the security? To avoid more problems of corruption? Government must rise up. Government must take care of some people. My friend said on the TV, he said, MRIF. We asked for MRIF, intervention of the government. Government intervened with the sum of 1 trillion naira. Government took it to a ministry, MOFI, Ministry of Finance Incorporated. That is MOFI, MRIF. I'm their consultant. And having appraised it myself, I found out that the man on the down cannot benefit. The man down cannot benefit. So I raised an alarm. The people I'm working for cannot benefit. The middleman can afford. The man up have 3 houses. One in Sokoro, one in my time, the empty house you are talking about. He's keeping that house. And some have changed the houses to apartment, sublet. And then we are still talking about the rent. So these are the issues. Therefore, PENCOM, pension fund, we have succeeded in getting that to go into housing. It's also there. But who can benefit? It is also the middle. And the people have. So who is taking care for the people then? Who is taking care of the cameraman here? Who is taking care of the driver here? Who is taking care of the people here? That's what we're talking about.
We'll take messages, but quickly, if you want to chip in, just in a moment.
When you ask him about the agents, because of course we're having a lot of agents because of unemployment. But ordinarily, you need to pass through the services of a professional. That's the only way. If you want to get a house, consult an estate surveyor and valuer. A registered, that way you can even trace. Recently, a lawyer reached out that, an agent has collected money and had disappeared. And there's no way to trace. So I will use this platform to encourage Nigerians. Seek the services of a professional. Even for the property owners, they will listen to a professional. But agents will just come and,
All right.
Wow, wow. Sorry, Victor. I want to thank Barrister Festus Adebayo for, your bluntness
and fighting for the downtrodden.
Yes, and for advocating for land for our cameramen, and for other poor people. Thank you very much. Yes, so that Victor and I can also
benefit.
Benefit. You can take care of yourself.
All right, let's take messages.
Please do.
This first one is from, no name. So this surge in housing costs, often outpacing income growth, is reducing disposable income, triggering a shift towards smaller, more affordable or remote houses, and pushing many tenants towards severe financial distress. So if there is a government-subsidized housing, tax breaks to developers of low-cost units, and financial assistance to low-income tenants, it would also ease the stress. Thank you, and God bless Nigeria. That's from Nandom Wiep in Jos. Now from Dr. Justus Olatunji in Ibadan. You can't control what you do not have. The government has no such power, especially with increasing costs of building materials. Let governments build plenty of affordable houses at the local, state, and federal government levels, okay? And from Sunday Alexander, the problem we are having on high cost of rent is greed of landlords and agents. The solution to this is when every government agency, parastatal, develops housing or quarters for their workers. It is bad when house rent is more than a worker's annual income. And one, without posting name, of course, maybe fear of the same landlord, said my landlord increased rent ×2 of the rent and even added an additional 100K to it. Please, is this acceptable? That's 150%. And good morning, NTA. My name is Solomon from Delta State. I earn a monthly salary of 40,000 naira. My house rent is 300,000 naira yearly. I walk every day from my house to my workplace, like about 3 hours each day. Feeding and all is nothing to write home about. Only God knows how I have been surviving. And from Destiny Vincent in Lugbe, the main force behind this increment is from those jobless people calling themselves agents. The government needs to set up a body to look into this. On the other side, the thing is affecting the landlords because renewal of rent is always a problem. The house you built in 1989, what does the current economy have to do? What has the current economy got to do with it? That's from Destiny Vincent in Lugbe. And from Osas, talk about house around school areas where students cannot secure student hostels and try secure a house outside is expensive. Where a self-contained costs almost $500,000 in some student areas. I can relate. And good morning, NTA and the guests. My landlord in Kano increases the rent yearly without giving the tenants a heads up. That is noticed before the due date. And when we confront him, he always tells us that it is not his duty to notify us, but we are the ones to indicate our interest of renewal. And whoever is not interested can vacate his property. I need clarification on this. And I think that's something Barrister Tanimu will respond. And finally, my old house increased from 600K to 12 million. Agent fees, so many issues. Mr. Bernard Sunday, 600,000 to 12 million. Am I right? Or is it 1.2? I doubt.
1.2.
I think 1.2.
Okay, let me, Victor, let me quickly take I have a few other ones. Now, I'll start from the bottom. Lydia AJ, you said, my take is that the federal government should put an end to agents in the country. They are the cost of house rent increases. So, agents. Good morning, NTA News. I am Bolaji from K2. K2 is in Lagos. The way I'm paying house rent is not okay for me. Like now, ordinary room is between 300 and 350. A room and parlor self-contained is 1.2 million. That is in K2 area. K2 is on the mainland in Lagos. Good morning. Linus Dozie, my landlord increased my rent from 750,000 naira annually to 1.5 million annually. He informed me a few days ago before my rent expired and is in court trying to enforce it. Linus Dozie, Okay, you have quite a number of questions. Now, good morning. My name is Chukwueme Emeka. I'm living in River State, Port Harcourt. House rent is costly here. One room is between 120 and 200,000. One bedroom self-contained is between 600 and 1 million. Okay, yes, 1 million. That is 600,000 and 1 million naira. Two bedroom is 1.5 and 2 million. Please, government should help us. Even old house is the same price. Then this is coming from Kanu. Salisu, good morning. NTA, you can't beat the rich, indeed. It's disheartening that the government cannot provide an affordable housing to its citizens, forgetting that housing is key in all the social amenities needed by a common fellow citizen. Government at all levels should declare state of emergency in housing sector. And this one, good morning, House. I'm of the strong opinion that the major reason why landlords or house owners keep increasing their fee is primarily out of greed. And then finally, extorting people unnecessarily is not acceptable. I pay 1 million naira and my next door neighbor pays 2.5 million. This is really bad. For developers, Real Estate Developer Association of Nigeria has kept mute over thousands of developers springing up without proper supervision and certification. Everybody is now a developer, and everybody is now a real estate agent without any direction from MF3 Solutions and Property. Thank you very much. These are your questions. Please keep them coming in. Just before we go, we will be taking your questions, but let's go on a break.
All right, interesting conversation we're having on Good Morning Nigeria. We're talking about house rent, and why it is increasing by the day, and of course all the associated issues. A lot of questions have come in from our viewers, and perhaps a number of them point to you before we get to Mr. Adebayo.
It talks about most of the questions borders on notice of increment. Parties are ordinarily bound by the terms of their agreement, and if you look at most agreement, the right is exclusively that of the landlord. In this case, the tenant is usually helpless. There's no amount way you want to go about it. The landlord hold the 4 A's at any point in time is allowed by law to increase his rent, and if you are not able to pay that rent, you have just barely 7 days, of which at the expiration of your tenancy to leave. So one of the ways landlords have adopted in evicting their tenant is to just increase the rent astronomically. If you are paying 1 million, the landlord will tell you to pay 4 million. If you are not ready to pay, when you are in court, the issue before the magistrate or the rent tribunal will be that you are not agreeing to the 4 million rent he has increased. No court will protect you, since there is no law to say that the landlord should not increase his rent from 1 million to 4 million. So the landlord is right, he has the power, and they normally do it. So that's why we are calling that we need to regulate the issue of rent in Abuja, the collection of and payment of rent. There should be a way that a landlord cannot increase his rent twice, maybe from 1 million to 2 million. Let it be a gradual process. That will save a lot of, and the requirement of notice. The tenant should be given 6 months notice as required by law, and nobody should use any agreement to circumvent that.
But
law.
the available law seems to suggest that, you know, whatever is written in the agreement between the landlord and tenant supersedes.
Absolutely. That's why I say we now need to come in. The law now needs to come in. You know, because now we are now making a law to protect a certain class of people, the tenants, and they are the majority. So you can make a law that you cannot, the way some people try to do in Lagos, when they ask them not to take more than 2 years rent, they criminalize it. So that as a landlord, if you tell your tenant, give me 1 year rent, then you find a means or send the other year rent to somebody else, it's a criminal offense. Yeah. So we can now, in Lagos.
Yes, in Lagos,
Yeah.
that's
so now
that's
we
the
can now
Lagos
have
State.
a semblance, yes,
The Lagos State
control
Tenancy Law
law.
2015.
So we now have, we need something of that nature in Abuja, whereby you cannot just increase your rent astronomically. There should be a certain threshold that you should not go beyond. They should criminalize taking 2 years rent if you cannot go for monthly payment, because you have to look at the landlord. They are investors. You don't expect them to be having issues with. You have tenants that will stay in your house for 2 years without paying, and because you try to be law abiding and you want to go to court to get them out, and for years they've abused those processes. So we need protection for both landlord and tenant.
The tenancy agreements as per Lagos State Tenancy Law 2015 and related fees, that's agency fees, legal fees, are regulated.
Yes.
And government has repeatedly emphasized that such fees should be capped.
Sure.
10%
Sure.
of annual rent. Illegal evictions and harassment are prohibited. Landlord must follow due lawful process to recover possession of property.
Absolutely.
And then there is the recovery, Lagos State Tenancy and Recovery of Premises Bill 2025, which is still a draft.
We have the recovery aspect in Abuja, but what the challenge now is the rent control, so that the landlord now should not be increasing their rent astronomically. You are allowed to increase. Then the state now can now give some condition that no parties should form an agreement that you can increase rent without giving 6 months notice. The law can actually take care of that.
Barrister, first we'll come back to you, but I like Kaide to say one or two words about the issue of developers springing up without proper supervision and certification. And this is from one of the viewer, you know, although he or she didn't put any name. But he said for developers, Real Estate Developers Association of Nigeria has kept mute over thousands of developers springing up. And honestly, he's saying, what he's saying is factual. Kaide, unmute yourself. Kaide, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Apologies, sorry.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, I must actually acknowledge that the ease of entry into that area of business is indeed quite low. The barriers of entry is almost quite low, right? But in all fairness, I think Lagos State and even Abuja, I think their enforcement of building control is quite, I don't know what part of Nigeria the person is speaking from. Yes, there are quite a number of people that become developers, because before you know it, there are quite a number of people. There was a joke I was still sharing yesterday. You know, some people, once you lose your job, the next thing is, oh, Egbon, I'm not a developer. I'm like, where are you developing? You know, that was just yesterday, right? But the good thing is that for a Lagos State, for example, you have Lagos State Building Control Agency, you have Physical Planning Authority, you have quite a number of agencies in Lagos that you can't just open shop and they don't know. As a matter of fact, the Building Control Agency even set up another local interaction agency where, forgive my use of language, they have like spies, local spies that walk around and do enforcement on behalf of government. It is quite commendable. So I'm not sure it will be practical in Lagos for you to open shop and start building without doing the right thing. Lagos State is quite on point with that. And I know Abuja is also well known for that. But the fact that, yes, there are quite a number of people drifting to that sector of the market is true. And again, you also have some instances where some people, sorry, let me just quickly go to what the barrister had said. You know, when you're talking about price controls, right? You can't price, okay, I'll give you an example. I have a development, right? You know, everything is automated, smart housing, right? You know, if you want to even use the restroom, it washes everything. You don't use a key, you don't use anything. Now, the price point for that development, for example, you know, when secondary market, when they are renting it out, you can't compare it to the price that the next door neighbor. So the cost of input is what I had mentioned earlier, right? So you can't compare the pricing, but that's by the way. So the ease of entry into that business should be regulated, yes. And also something I want to quickly address, you can't cancel agents, but you can regulate agents. One of the questions says end agency. You can't end agency because guess what? Agents are like gatekeepers in this industry. Agents will lead you to, they are the ones that bring two parties together. I don't know you, you don't know me. but let us bring them together. But does not mean they are not unscrupulous. I mentioned some things for the first time on this program. Say some people say, pay me 1 year, pay 1 year to another. I'm sure there are things that happen, but I've not heard of those before. And I've also heard of agents that will collect money on properties that don't exist. So I think there should be regulations that guide who and who should be able to introduce properties into markets. Because there are times when I've also wanted to buy properties. Guess what? It's advertised properties of 10 years ago. Somebody is introducing to me today.
Kayode, why is it that somewhere in K2, for instance,
Okay.
Ordinary room is 300, 500,000 naira. In K2 and parlor and self-contained is 1.2 million. K2, not Obalende, and not Iko, not even Ikoyi. Don't let us go to Ikoyi. Not Surulere, not Lansing. K2.
There's a factor for greed. 100%, I agree with you. Then there's also a place where somebody has built a house and it tells you that this house, forgive me to speak in Yoruba, Molo school, meaning I bought this property because that's what I will use to send my children to school. Everybody has different investment objectives when they are buying real estate, for example, right? So maybe school fees, for example. So there are different factors. Like I said, we can't exhaust it here. School fees is now 2 million and the landlord looks at it, how will I pay these school fees if I don't increase this rent? Now, is it right? No. There should be controls. There should be rent control.
Give us a solution. What can we do? One, how can we regulate developers, and how can we make? You don't believe in affordable housing, but the reality is that civil servants need affordable housing. If nobody,
or if you don't like the language, low-cost housing.
I don't believe in affordable housing.
Low-cost housing.
Hey, I'm just saying. See, nothing is low, nothing is cheap. So there's no way you can build something from nothing. You can't make something out of nothing. When price of cement, like you rightly acknowledged, I don't know what price point I will meet tomorrow. So if I do off plan, for example, I'll get myself into trouble. So I don't bother with it, right? Because you can't determine the factors of production, the price points in the nearest future, in the part of the world we live in. Now, that said, how can you control some of these things that some of these landlords do? Now, I will also give you an example before I go in there. I have is she a mother-in-law now? My brother-in-law's mom. Somebody wanted to rent a house from her, and the person came and said, I know the law. Now, Lagos State is regulated. There is a law 2015 that regulates tenancy agreements. And the person said, no. Governor Fashola said, everything should be like this. The old woman, she's now late. God rest her soul. She said, what that means is that I built my house, go and meet Fashola to tell you the price points. Now, the man was just being practical, because really, how can you be able to, like other parties also in the house have said, how can you control what you don't really own? So, the implementation of some of these things are things we need to look at. So it's not just even about making the policies, it's about making sure that they are balanced and that they are fair. Because again, some people will build and they will tell you that they don't bother renting. Now, one of the things I need to say, and I should not be taken out of context, please. Now, I'm a Christian, I have faith in God, I believe I should own the best things in life. But, when I was in banking, my first house was in Amuodofin, right? My colleagues rented houses in Lekki Phase 1 and places close to Victoria Island. Guess what? Some of my colleagues laughed at me at that time that, Ogbeni, why will we be coming from inside the bush to the office? But guess what? I was just being a practical person. Now, where am I going to? Let's not take houses that will not be using faith and prayer point to pay. It's very important. Now, if you know your salary is 20,000, why are you going to rent a house that is 15x or 20x your salary? Please, I beg, don't take me out of context. I think let's not make, some things are done out of faith. Some people are renting a house, and my God shall provide my needs according to his riches. So they go and rent a house that is 2 million, because by faith, I will get another job that will pay me 10 million next year. Come on, your salary is maybe 200,000. So unless you steal, you won't afford your next salary. You already know that, but by faith, you have said, I would earn more. So let's be practical. If your salary band is what, again, like I said, not this probably won't be a popular comment I'm making. If your salary band is 200,000, look to something you can easily pay, and you will not mortgage your morals or your job or your integrity to be able to afford.
We will have to let you go at this point for now, because we have to get other people involved too, and we have messages. Thank you very much for the points you've made. Well, let me see a few more messages so that we could respond to them, and then we'll probably close shop from here. Now, good morning, NTA. Agnes from Cross River. My rent was increased from 300,000 to 500,000. Please, the government should help us. We are now working hard to enrich house agents and landlords. Okay, and from Suleiman in Abuja, access to affordable land, finance, and installmental payments in installments can help. That's paying rents in installments. And then you talk about Steve from Gwagwalada. House rent here is skyrocketing. 2-bedroom rent, 1.5 million naira to 2 million naira. And agent fees, 10% to 20%. Caution fee and legal fees are also there. From Nna Dozie in Abuja, agents in Abuja now collect 25% as agency and legal. Some don't even have lawyers. They still collect service and caution fee, which most times makes the tenants to pay close to 50% of the rent in extra charges. Sure. Now, good morning, NTA. Finally, from Hassan Magaji in Jalingo. Indeed, government needs to step in on time concerning house rent issues. You can imagine Taraba State, that happens to be a salary state or a civil service state. Students pay 400K on a single room, self-contained. He said it is barbaric.
Okay, let me quickly. Chinazo from Anambra. House rent is extremely high here. Lawyers fee, agents fee, agreement fees, and so on. Increment on yearly house rent. Low-income earners and poor people can't afford paying their home rent. Government should do something, please. And Bala Mohammed, good morning, Nigeria. I commend your effort. Please, is it legal for landlords to increase rent twice within a year? I am where I am in Delta. I'm paying 450,000 naira for a room per year. Victor, you just returned. You have to confirm that for us. Yes. It's becoming alarming. Please make Una help us. I'm reading it just the way he sent it. Make Una help us. Daniel, thank you. My name is Michael Mhembe from Benue. The issue of house rent is alarming everywhere in this country. My solution is government involvement. I believe there are federal and state housing schemes. And then this one is coming from Deborah from Kanu. We are also experiencing a rise in the cost of house rent. They don't really renovate the house. There's nothing new. It's as old as it was when we first came in. They are just taking the money. Wow.
Perhaps we can take a minute to go around before we close.
Yes.
You asked about Delta. You ask people that they tell you that the Yahoo boys have spoiled everything. Sure. That when you ask how much is this, they leave them, I'll pay. Sure.
Okay, let's quickly, let's look at the various available options. We have the National Housing Fund, we have the Federal Mortgage, we have PENCOM. All these are, sources to enable people, access housing opportunities. What other solutions can there be?
I don't think beside what you just mentioned, the government just needs to commit to providing housing. That's just the key.
All right. For me, I think we need to amend some of our laws. The government is good at copying laws from abroad. In America, for example, if you know any abandoned, in some states, if you know any abandoned house, you are allowed to go in and take possession and live in that house. So we need to copy those ones. Right. And we need to make some drastic changes in our laws.
I think what we should do is that part of it is the commercial banks need to lower their interest rate. and make funds, both Federal Mortgage Bank and all the developers, to make funds available for them to build more affordable housing estates.
All right.
That's the word.
All right. Mr.
Regulate the activities of agents. Regulate the activities of real estate developers all over the world. When they put their signboard, they put their name, they put their number. So when they commit a crime, you use the number to track them. We are not having that. The time has come. Number 2, increase the salaries of workers. Inflation has affected them, and it is time to act. When you get to Ghana, you see the salary somebody's collecting in Nigeria. When you convert it to cedis, we discover it is nothing. So it is better to work in Ghana and be sending you the money home. Finally.
All right.
Finally, Nigerians, please go and join cooperative. You can use cooperative to help yourself to own a house. Go to housing microfinance that can help you. The mortgage system is not working as it should be because the interest rate is high.
All right.
Government must address it.
Thank you, Mr. Adebayo. Kayode, your final word. How can tenants, even civil servants who have connection to government, their salaries are there, how can they be helped to own houses?
Malga, thank you for this. Okay, so first and foremost, I like the notion of the civil servants you have mentioned. And, if civil servants can give me uptake guarantee, call me to come and sit down with you, how's it? I'm a this conversation. Civil servants have steady jobs, right? So just say, Mr. Olusoya, let us talk. I'll do that for you so long as I know there's a guarantee that the civil servants are there. So some of them are they are not able to, they are easy, quick wins that we can have. That's one. Then 2, government is the bigger land ever. Government is the one that has the money that no single individual can have. Now, government is what we need to subsidize all. When I said affordable or low income or whatever it is, government is the solution. If government can make a policy that we want to build 1 million houses today, when there's a will, government always finds a way. If government can step in, all this English we probably will be having this conversation because government will solve all our problems.
Completely, but I'll take you up on that. Perhaps we'll send people your way who you can work with to build. I think it's a conversation that we could also have a second part of. Kayode Olusoya, developer, we thank you very much for your time and your thoughts on Good Morning Nigeria this morning. He joined us via Zoom from Lagos. Let me also thank Festus Adebayo, a lawyer and founder, Housing Development Advocacy Network. He's also founder, Africa International Housing Show. We thank you very much for your time and for fighting for the poor. Thank you. Let me also thank Abubakar Ahmed Tanimu, who is also, he said he's a victim too, former banker and legal practitioner. Thank you for your thoughts on the program. Let me also thank estate surveyor and valuer Lillian Ngozi Oheto, fellow of the Nigerian Institution of Estate Surveyors and Valuers. She's also secretary of the Nigerian Institution of Estate Surveyors and Valuers, FCT branch. Thank you very much for bringing the professional juice as well. And finally, but by no means the least, quantity surveyor Otaru Joseph Omokagbo, FNIQS, Vice President, Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
All right, and that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. We thank you for watching. We hope we'll have a second take. I am Claire Adelabo Abdulrazak. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, I'm Victor Azo. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.